Hello, hello, possums, yes it is I, the conspicuous moon. And we have a few more monk changes that I've come across in the last week or so, plus some exciting news about 9.1, so I think it's time to get cracking and get straight into it. First of all, they had a look at Covenant balancing again this week on Wowhead, and yeah, no surprise really, all three specs are 50% Kyrian or upwards, and that seems to be getting bigger and bigger as we go on. I was actually expecting a reversal, because most people are going Kyrian because it is technically the best option for monks in general. But you know, once they completed ahead of the curve, or they'd done their mythic and they cleared it all, they could actually go back to something they wanted to use. But it does seem that it's still climbing, so there are still people who are obviously trying to get ahead of the curve and stuff. Venthyr is still terrible, but you know, at least it's not as imbalanced as, say, Night Fae and Druids, where it's like 90% minimum or upwards. You know, there just really isn't another choice there. So Windwalkers are climbing the charts again, which is good news because they dropped 14 ranks after the initial bug fixes, but about a week or so ago they decided to fix things up a bit, so they added Spinning Crane Kick to our Mastery again, and they increased the amount of time that Mark of the Crane is up from 15 to 20 seconds, as well as increasing the damage that your Fist of Fury clones will do by 20%, and that is now being reflected in the overall balancing for Mythic Rating DPS. So very much middle of the pack, but you know, we've gone up 7 ranks, definitely an improvement, and it looks like there's more good news coming along the way, kind of. I'll get into that next. So on top of these relatively decent changes that we had, a couple of our legendaries also got minor buffs. So Kiefer's Skyreach, critical strike increase is now properly applied by and affects your Storm, Earth and Fire Spirits. Now this is rather significant because that means that, you know, for the 6 seconds after you hit Tiger Palm, you'll get 50% increased crit on your Storm, Earth and Fire. So, you know, that's already been buffed, and now it's got a 50% crit buff on top of that for the 6-second window. It does mean that you could pretty well delete people even more comprehensively in PvP, but it is also finding a lot of popularity in certain Mythic Plus runs as well. If you have, you know, maybe up to 3, maybe up to 6 targets, you pop Storm, Earth and Fire, hit Tiger Palm first, and then you get the 50% increased crit, and you can just go ham on them. So, you know, there is a lot of absolute burst potential there for Kiefer's Skyreach, so it is becoming a little bit more popular. So Jade Ignition has been one of those legendaries that's sort of pretty good, but it's on the outside. It's fairly undemanding, but you know, if you are doing Mythic Plus, you spec into Dance of Chi-Ji, and you know, I was playing around with it early on in Shadowlands. I was always slightly disappointed by the amount of damage, additional damage that I actually did. I was expecting a little more bang for my buck, and it appears that there were a few things that weren't working properly. So the hit combo talent now properly increases the damage of Chi Explosion. You probably wouldn't be taking hit combo anyway in that situation, because it's in direct opposition to Dance of Chi-Ji, which is the one where it gives you 200% additional damage every time you have a Spinning Crane Kick proc. So I don't think that's going to affect things all that much. Storm, Earth and Fire Spirits now also cast Chi Explosion, so that would be at 70% of your regular Chi Explosion ability, and they fixed an issue that could prevent Chi Explosion from striking large monsters. Well, it's like, what is a large monster? I don't know. But maybe overworld bosses, or hopefully not dungeon bosses. But anyway, you know, these two legendaries are both getting buffed. It's relatively good. Is Jade Ignition better than Invoker's Delight? No. Still no. I mean, you know, there's still a little bit more simming to do, and people are going to try it out and see how it all works. But at the moment, Invoker's Delight is still your go-to. But at least you do have an option if you want to get a little creative with Kiefer's Skyreach, if you want to take that. Most people for PvE, though, will probably still stick with Invoker's Delight. But it's nice that, you know, we're getting even more options to use, and, you know, hopefully, who knows, we may even get the opportunity to equip 2 legendaries at once, and this is where these ones could really come in. Tanks across the entire spectrum can now rejoice, because we are getting a 10% damage taken reduction. And for Brewmasters in particular, that is 10% physical and 10% magical. It's going to be applied to Brewmaster's Balance, which is a passive anyway. So that is very, very welcome. Of course, you know, magic mitigation isn't one of our stronger things, especially when Celestial Brew isn't up. I mean, we do stagger a very small amount of magic damage. I think it's 35% of what your current stagger is, and our stagger is still relatively low. Which is an issue that has still not been addressed. So yeah, at the moment, you know, anything outside of Celestial Brew, you know, you're probably going to have to be using cooldowns in order to mitigate the magic damage. So an extra 10% reduction is very welcome, but, you know, does this address any of the other issues with Brewmaster? Absolutely not. You know, I'm still very much in favour of, well, this is just me being an old fuddy-duddy really, I'm still very much in favour of stagger being mastery. So, you know, you can stack mastery if you want to in heavy physical fights, and, you know, you can have an additional set with more versatility on it for magic fights. But anyway, I'll leave that alone for now. The problem with Vengeance Demon Hunters hasn't really gone away. I mean, they are still a major outlier. Now, they've had additional 5% damage mitigation reduction, but they're having minus 10% of magic damage mitigation because of a bug fix, and, you know, basically mitigating far more magic damage than they were originally intended to, and it's such an outlier that they've actually decided to fix it now, which is not something that they normally do. So why they put it in now? I think they're trying to address the whole thing where, you know, a large amount of tanks up to, once you get to certain key levels, are going to have to kite, and you don't really have a choice because the melee mobs are hitting too hard. Is this tank damage reduction going to do anything? Not really. I mean, they're still going to be hitting extraordinarily hard. It's also worth noting this 10% does not apply to PvP, so no, there isn't a new PvP tank meta where you can just go out and lols people wail on you. So yeah, I mean, it's nice, it's going to make things a little bit easier, but is it really going to change anything in the core? No, not really, you know. But once again, it's like the legendaries, we'll take it, you know, it's a buff, and we'll absolutely take it, particularly the magic part. Finally, they removed the Soul Ash cap because, well, what else can you do? I mean, there wasn't much point in having a cap in the first place, and people are now they've crafted their rank 4 legendaries. What else are they going to use it on? As we don't really know when 9.1 is going to arrive, then it kind of makes sense that you remove the cap, otherwise people will just not do that content as well, and things get even worse. However, having said that, it has been announced that the Blizzard are intending for the PTR for 9.1 to finally arrive in the next couple of weeks. So, you know, that is definitely progress. But, you know, if I were a cynic, and I definitely am when it comes to Blizzard Entertainment right now, I would say, isn't it convenient that you managed to leak out some news that the, you know, 9.1 won't drop until August, and now, you know, it's going to be in the PCI in mid-April, couple of months, so you're talking about mid-June instead of August, so, you know, you've kind of set it up so you expect to be thanked for your amazing delivery of patches. Yes, that's just me being a complete cynic. I'm sure it was entirely coincidental the way it's been timed within a week of each other. But, you know, at the end of the day, and having grateful thanks for having, you know, the first major content patch come out some 7.5 months after the actual game released, you know, I would never ever be grateful for that. If Shadowlands was delayed by 1 month due to that thing, then, you know, it should follow that, you know, the 9.1 patch would be delayed by 1 month for that thing, and so, you know, you should have had a release date around, well, early March. Now, this is where it was supposed to have come down, because even taking into account the lag factor of the month, you know, you should have had it. We should be in the new raid going nuts because Sylvanas lives, and the Jailer's, you know, plot is foiled, and yeah, we're sort of going through all of the new content and having great fun in the new dungeon, but we're absolutely not doing that, so no, I'm not likely to be thanking you in 2.5 months. When this thing finally arrives, if it does indeed arrive in that time. Anyway, the introduction of 1 PTR is very exciting anyway, because it leaves us open to speculation about what they're going to do now. We know that there's going to be new renown levels. You'll be able to fly. We're going to have a new raid. We're going to have a new, like, Mechagon 2. Mechagon's great fun, so looking forward to that. And would also like to see, you know, are they going to make any, you know, major design changes to some of the classes who have been falling behind, like this Peter. Sorry. Yeah, it's very stuffy in here. And that's about all for the monks so far as we go into April. You know, a little bit of optimism there. We've had a couple of buffs. It's looking pretty good. You know, we've got the PTR coming soon, so let's see what their ideas are with Monk, if they have any. But, you know, as some of you know, I have unsubscribed from Shadowlands now because there is literally nothing to do. So I will be back, but I will be back with a slightly different flavour because it will be an Elder Scrolls video. And more specifically, what happens if you stop playing Shadowlands and, you know, you want to try another MMO. Elder Scrolls is going to be one of the top options for you. in my humble opinion. So I'm just going to go over some of the things which are very, very different about the way Elder Scrolls works. And, you know, some of them might be deal breakers, but, you know, I'll give you a heads up as to, you know, what's happening there. And you'll get to meet Danger Moo, which is my, my Nightblade. I did go with Nightblade. I did go with a bow. I didn't like the bow. I went back to being a tank. It's just a default option. Anyway, so you've got that to look forward to, and of course Heidi Megamoo, that one is still in the works. She's had some very interesting adventures already in Valheim, and yeah, there's some triumph there, but there is an awful lot of tragedy as well. But you know, it's a survival game. What can you do? Anyway, I will be back very, very soon. Until then, stay monkish, stay funky. I am the Conspicuous Moo, and I'd like to have an energizing elixir with you.